Welcome to Season 2 of careISH. It's selfish with care. I'm Megan, your host, and each week I spend about 20 minutes to an hour unpacking different ways to fill your cup after a divorce, or if you're on a dating or self-dating journey. Either way, enjoy and let's get into it. This episode is obviously very financially focused, and if you're someone who's looking to invest in something, then you are probably staying home a lot. Hence why I'm promoting my partnership with Cat, the label, my favorite lingerie and sleepwear brand for when I am stuck at home and want to feel like it's still a little bit of like a sexy party thing. I have a silk lace short crop set thing that I wear just for myself, for nobody else, and every time it's at the top of my pajama drawer, I just get a little bit excited and happy about putting it on. Just for me. Just to emphasize that point. Okay, so if you're stuck at home and you still want to give yourself some love, tap the Cat the Label link in the show notes to help keep self-care-ish going and treat yourself at the same time. Obviously, it's self-care-ish here. Of course, if you are losing your mind from bringing your lunch to work every day and you need to splash out, I hear you. In which case, book yourself a break with Luxury Escapes where you can go super luxe on a serious budget. Like I just looked at the site and there are Maldives, not Maldives. Don't say Maldives. Sorry, I'm Australian. Maldives deals that are seriously calling my name, she says, while eating beans on toast for dinner. Anyway, I'm all about priorities here and on with the show. I know you're sitting there going, Megan, why the hell are we talking about mortgages? This is a post-divorce dating podcast. I don't come here for financial advice. Well, friend, that is precisely why I'm doing this episode. As I've mentioned before, when I first got separated, sitting alone in my rented apartment, devouring podcast after podcast about dating over 30, divorce, rediscovering yourself after marriage, every single one was incredibly helpful, but never once did I come across an episode centered around something as boringly practical as getting a mortgage, a loan. And I had to venture down the financial sector of the podcast ether for all of that. Like, I know there are amazing relationship podcasts called like I Will Teach You to Be Rich, where Ramit interviews couples about like forensically about their relationship with money, and that stuff is fascinating and I devour it. But what about like the boring brass tacks stuff about getting a mortgage? There's no one in relationships section doing that. But just not even talking about mortgages, but the financial stress of that, but also the emotional feelings that come along with that. I don't know, something about, it's hard to put into words, locking yourself into a mortgage after a divorce. It just comes with a lot of complex feelings. So yes, this episode is practical. And yes, for some people, it might not be as, say, super sexy as interviewing a diagnosed narcissist. That was on last week's episode. If you missed it, shameless plug. But I did promise at the start of this season that we would cover a few of the practical ways to save your sanity and live your best life after divorce. And yes, having a roof over your head is undeniably one of those things. The ultimate form of self-care. Self-care distilled into its purest form. Safety. Gotta have it. I also want to acknowledge that this is a very timely time to talk about mortgages because we are in a cost of living crisis. Everyone, renters, homeowners, business owners, small business owners, corporate people, we are all feeling the pinch. Nobody is immune, or maybe not Jeff Bezos. He is definitely immune. So if you are in a position to even explore the idea of a mortgage right now, you should know that you're in a very positive position. And I say that looking at the 13th interest rate hike since May 22. It's a fun times for everybody. But that is what people tell me. Be grateful. And I am. But if I sound like I'm talking myself into this, I really truly am. I'm sitting here like many divorcees staring at the settlement, which is actually the carnage from the sale of my former marital home. I'm terrified to take the leap into locking myself into a 30-year contract with a giant corporation, something that will arguably last longer than most marriages, also arguably easier to get out of. As you may already know, the word mortgage is literally from the old French word mortgage, which means death pledge. So actually, this is the perfect episode for a podcast centered around divorce. Till death do you part with your mortgage. Because it seems that even if you get divorced and decide, look, I never want to lock myself into anything ever again, then newsflash, mortgages are probably the closest thing to getting married to a giant corporate entity you can get. We could think of it that way. And sometimes I do. That's my default vibe. Or we could look at it as getting married to yourself, making a pledge and an investment in your own future. Every payment as a single person, a protest against being pushed into a relationship just for the financial benefits. That is a slightly nicer spin. Although I'll be honest, sometimes a dual income is a very attractive prospect despite the drawbacks that it comes with. Myriad drawbacks. But I am just sitting here as a jaded divorcee. Today, I brought on my own mortgage broker. His name's Ivan Kaye, and you can Google him, and I've got him here to kind of talk me down off the ledge before I sign my freedom away to a bank. And also to help you if you're in the same situation. I want us both to feel confident about taking that next huge single person step. Maybe we can do it together. I promise it's not a boring chat. Money is self-care after all. Enjoy. This is not an ad, it is just a reminder that you can receive all your favorite self-careish news by subscribing to the official Substack via the link in the show notes. There is a free version and a paid version where for the cost of an almond latte, you'll receive exclusive episodes and behind-the-scenes content from the show. I'm also on Instagram at Megan Lonergan, Self-Careish Podcast, and on TikTok at Megan Lonergan. Anyway, they're all in the show notes. Enjoy. Okay, I know this is annoying. Back onto the show. Ivan, hi. Firstly, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. I know this is a little unusual for you. I actually think this is one of the most daunting interviews I've ever done, simply because the world of finance and the ins and outs of even getting a mortgage is such new territory for me. Like I've got one with my ex, but doing it all on my own, it's a little scary. Am I alone in feeling this fear, or would you say a lot of your divorcee clients share the same sentiments?
Interesting. I think that getting divorced. I'm not divorced, but I can imagine that getting divorced is sort of like an entrepreneur leaving a stable job and going into a startup and saying welcome to sub-fear. People being absolutely terrorized and in absolute pain. They're really good at what they do, and all of a sudden now they haven't got anyone to like do everything. And what they're really, really good at. I'll give you an example. Sorry. In respect of an entrepreneur is great at what he or she does. And as they grow or they leave their job, they were like in a little startup in their garage. Now they need to leave their job and they go into the startup and all of a sudden they have to do everything. They're really good at, let's say, creativity and content writing. And all of a sudden they have to organize their finances, the marketing, the people, the employing people, all the stuff, the administration, and things that were just organized before aren't organized anymore. And you'll probably find you get letters from the tax office and they just like get accumulated unopened in a green paper supermarket bag.
That sounds very specific. Are you sure you haven't been divorced before?
No, I've been married 35 years, but I couldn't imagine my wife, Robin, does so much for me. So I wouldn't even know where to start. So there's this massive fear. The challenges, the finances, the fear of not having a partner, what you're going to do on a Saturday night, the juggling of your children, things that you've never had to worry about before. Like maybe even finding a place to live because you had a home and you don't have a home anymore. I can relate because I'm an entrepreneur and I've been that. And I've been into that club fear where your legs turn to jelly being terrified.
Yeah, it's funny hearing you talk like that because I always had this impression that mortgage brokers are just, you know, no offense, emotionless robots. But I knew when I spoke to you, I was like, this guy, there's more to this guy.
I'm also a chartered accountant, so like it's crazy. People say, like, are you sure you're an accountant? But yeah.
Well, one of the things I actually really wanted to get you on the show for is to ask you. I think all divorcees share the same feeling when it comes to applying for a mortgage or anything financial, talking to a broker. I mean, at least for me, I think it feels a little bit like going to the gynecologist in that it's just very exposing and there's a little bit of fear about what if my finances aren't up to perfect order. Obviously, because you've been through a divorce, that's going to happen sometimes. What can you say to put people's minds at ease around that feeling?
Great question. I think that you need to do the most important thing to cope as an entrepreneur or a divorcee or someone who's a startup. And I could someone who's just got divorced and someone who's having big in a startup. I think you've got the same pains. One of the key things that you need to do is have mentors and professionals around you that like and trust. You just like a gynecologist, you don't want to go to the gynecologist who you don't know, like and trust implicitly. You've got to feel safe. And a mortgage broker is a bit like a gynecologist. You're exposing yourself big time, and you just need to feel that you can trust that person implicitly. And trust is just such a key thing in not only in finances, in everything that everybody that you deal with.
But are you judging me through my finances? Because through this process, you'll get to be privy to a lot of, I don't know, insider info. Not that it's very exciting. But if something isn't up to par, do you go, oh my God, this person sucks?
Not at all. Not at all. Oh my Lord. Not in the slightest. Everybody thinks that they are they are special, or they are the worst, or they are the best, or they are. How do they compare? It actually doesn't matter. As a mortgage broker, your job or my job is to assess where you are, what you've got, and what you can get. And it's sort of like it's not about what you think of me. That's irrelevant. It's sort of what you think of you. That's the most important thing. You actually shouldn't give a shit what I think. What do you care what I think?
Ivan, I care what everyone thinks.
What's it to you? I mean, what you should be worried about is you are the CEO of your own life, no one else. And you, in respect to finances, you've got to worry about three things. That's it, three things. In fact, four things. I'm the fourth. But do you want to know what those three things are?
Yes, teach me, please.
Okay, draw a triangle. Split that triangle into three parts.
Ooh.
On the top, halfway, and then halfway. Yeah, that's it. You got it. Okay. On the top of the triangle, write CEO. That's you. No one else is in charge of you except you. On the right-hand side of the triangle, put 1. At the bottom of the triangle, put 2. And on the left-hand side of the triangle, put 3. And then underneath the triangle, make a rectangle. And underneath that rectangle, type 4. That's where I come in. Okay. So what is 1? This is finance 101. Okay, this is what you need to know. And if you've got that, all three of them nailed, you're done. Okay. On the right-hand side of the triangle, number 1, write cash flow. And that there is your lifestyle. It's more money coming in than going out based on your assets minus what's going out. Your biggest cost will be your tax, your kids, groceries, food, whatever it might be, lifestyle, going out to dinner, going overseas, travel. Hopefully there's a lot of that. Going out on dates, going to movies, whatever. And that's your cash flow. It's very easy to spend. Some people spend a lot, some people don't. which is, like some people are very good at saving, some people are good at spending. But that's cash flow. The bottom side, number two, right assets. Those are the things that actually create your income. Yeah. Those are the things that create your income. And what is your biggest asset that you have?
Me, my body, my health, my ability to earn, I assume.
You are your biggest asset. There's no bigger asset than you, because without you, you haven't got a job.
True.
So effectively, you need to make sure that you, as an asset, as a CEO of your business, you need to make sure that your biggest asset is like really in top shape. So what does that mean for you? Your health, your well-being. You got to feel good. You've got to look good. Whatever you feel that you good, that's you. That's your biggest asset. All those cool things. What other assets? Maybe a property, maybe shares, maybe a business, maybe superannuation. All those things that'll grow over time. So that's number two. Those are your assets. And the third thing is to protect those assets in your cash flow is risk. That's number three on the left-hand side of your triangle, risk. Because shit can happen. What happens if you pretty much can't work anymore? You've got your kids, you've got your house, you've got your stuff. You need to make sure that if you're not there, do you have anyone that you need to look after? What happens if you have a business and you've now employed 4 or 5 people, and ideally you want to be in a situation where you're working on the business and you're not relying on yourself anymore. So that hopefully the income that you're generating is coming from your business and your other assets, and less reliance on you. So hopefully you are like not an asset at all, but you're actually you're an investor, just basically enjoying the returns of the assets that you've created.
Well, that's the goal. Baby steps, Ivan. Let's just start from square one. So what's this square on the bottom?
I'm glad you asked that question. That's where I come in, underneath. And that's called OPM. What's OPM stand for?
Operational prospecting management.
Other people's money. Because what happens is that's where you get your most leverage. 90% of people in Australia have made their money through
property.
So why did they make so much money in property? Like shares and property, they increase the same, like 5 or 10% a year. Why did people make shitloads of money from property?
Wait, are we gonna get political here?
No. I'll tell you. Is you only have to put a little money down, and you can borrow a lot of other people's money. So effectively, if property increases, let's say you buy property for $500,000, yeah, and let's say you've only got $100,000 in total. Where are you going to get the other $400,000 from?
The bank.
Exactly. What's another word for the bank? OPM. Other people's money. That's it. Okay. So what happens? Let's assume that in 10 years' time, that $500,000 goes to $1 million. And let's assume that you've rented out that property because you've treated that as an investment, yeah? And let's assume that $400,000 that you borrowed will be covered by the rent and negative gearing and tax and all that good stuff. So your outlay, your incoming money and your outgoing money is not too different in respect to that property. So you've put down $100,000, you've borrowed $400,000, and in 10 years' time, how much do you still owe on that property?
I can't do maths and interview at the same time, my friend.
But you still only owe 100 because the 100 hasn't gone up. So effectively, you sold the property for $1 million, and you only owe 100,000. How much are you going to have left? 900,000 less what you pay the bank. You're going to get $500,000, which is like a 500% return. As long as property is going to go up in the long term, and the government is stable, and more people are coming into the country than going out, and Australia is a cool place to live, I don't think property is going to go down in a hurry.
Well, that's comforting. You've explained this is the good upside, but I think also for divorcees, there's this emotional side of taking a settlement and putting it somewhere. Like you kind of stare at it in your bank and it has a lot of emotions attached to it. And in some ways, for me, seeing it there accessible makes me feel safe. But I know that to be sensible, I'm going to have to take that and put it somewhere where it's not accessible and it's just an emotional leap.
Absolutely. Now, the question is, I don't know how much money you've got or whatever, but one thing about your home is not an asset,
Wait, what do you mean by that?
actually a liability. Or maybe you'll sell it, but
Yeah.
it's not generating you income. It's costing you money. It is an asset, but it's not a working asset. Yeah, maintenance, levies, you want to renovate it, you want to make it look good. Whereas an investment, you like really don't care. You're there to rent it out and you're going to get capital growth and hopefully your rents increase and more
Yeah,
money comes in than
outright.
goes out. So ideally, if people like the security and safety, like my wife, Robin, I've convinced her over the years not to own your own home, but she wants her own home.
Wait, should I not invest in a home then?
It's a phantom security because once you actually do have your own home, you've always got that fear of losing it. So there's always that you should invest in property. It depends on how a home makes you feel. If it makes you feel good, you're not investing in the home, you're investing in lifestyle. You're investing in a feeling of safety. Looking at it absolutely economically, what you should do is rent unbelievable properties that are giving you good returns and rent somebody else's home at as cheap as possible. Like rent a $5 million home for $100,000 a year and buy 5 properties for $3 million that'll generate you $200,000 a year.
Yeah, that's phase two for me.
Anyway, that's just another way of looking at things.
Really weird question. I've only ever used mortgage brokers, but some people don't. Why would anyone decide to just go out and do it all on their own?
There's absolutely no reason why they should, and I'll tell you why. Is because if you go directly to your bank, let's say NAB, you've got no choice. You're with NAB. As a mortgage broker, I can go to your bank, I can go to NAB. Not only can I go to NAB, but I can go to 60 other lenders. Commissions that I get are exactly the same as your NAB employee gets. There's no additional cost to you, whether you use a broker, whether you use NAB. The beauty about it is that I can go get the best rates. I can get the best mortgage for you. I can get if you need more money, you can potentially go to a bank that's prepared to give you more money than your existing bank. You've got choice. And if, for example, let's say NAB is your bank and you come to me and you say, well, listen, I can go to NAB. They've given me 6.2 or whatever it might be, or 6.4. I can go to other banks and probably get you 5.9 or 5.8. You can then go back to NAB and say, listen, my broker said that I can get 5.8 and here's the paperwork. More often than not, NAB will actually say, I'll match you, but you need to actually have those 3 other banks as proof. Now, very often, you're so pissed off that they're not doing that for you. Why didn't they do it for you anyway? That you'll say, well, listen, I'd rather go to Westpac or Ubank or whoever because they're giving me 5.8. I trust them. And so it's all about trust. At the end of the day, if you trust your banker like a mentor and you've got a relationship with that banker at NAB, stick with him or her because it's all about people. It's all about people that you know, like, and trust. And if you can know, like, and trust your mortgage broker or accountant or financial planner, you've got it nailed. The most important thing is to surround yourself with people, especially as a divorcee or an entrepreneur. Surround yourself with people that are better than you, that know what they're doing, and are great at what they do, that can supplement what you do so you can focus on what you do well.
I know we're pressed for time, so I've just got a couple more questions. Really quickly, what's a red flag for a broker? Or how do I know that a broker is good?
Good question. Well, all the brokers are bad except for me. No, only kidding. It's what makes a good broker and what makes a bad broker. A good broker, first of all, they need to be accredited with all the relevant institutions. They need to be qualified. There's like a minimum standard that all brokers need to go through. They need to have their diplomas. They need to have maybe accounting degrees. I'm a chartered accountant, so I happen to have all the relevant qualifications. My relevant mortgage broking licenses. I belong to the relevant associations, the MFAA, the ACFA. All these things all these qualifications actually get a mortgage broker to the table. They're competent. They know what to do. The second thing is the technology that they use. Are they doing things on a piece of paper and like sort of in the old school, or actually are they using the best technology that's out there? Can you basically with a flick of the button actually determine what's the best rate within 5 minutes? Has that mortgage broker got relationships with like 6 or 7 bankers that when the broker phones that bank will answer, because they've developed good relationships with those bankers over the years. The key thing is there's 2 words: care and trust.
Okay, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, interest rates. I know they're on the top of everyone's mind at the moment. Is this a terrible time to buy a house? And tell me the truth, because I am nervous.
Okay, I bought my house 20 years ago, and interest rates were at 18%. 18%, not 6, not 7, not 8, 18%.
Yeah, I know that, but houses were a lot cheaper, and inflation and all of that.
They were, but people were earning less. I think what's more important is it's irrelevant what the interest rate is, because the interest rate is whatever the interest rate is. The question is the property going to go up or down? One never knows. However, historically in Australia, properties doubled every 10 to 14 years. And if property is going to double every 10 to 14 years, it doesn't matter whether the interest is 6% or 10%, your property will still go up in value. The question is can you afford, if property does go from 6 to 10%, can you afford those repayments?
I'm going to say yes to you.
That's the question to ask. And that's what you need to do. Is one of the key things to do is plan. You need to actually have a great financial plan and make sure that if interest rates do go up, have you got the wherewithal to cover have you got a buffer?
I am working on it, Ivan. I'm working on it.
Never a bad time to buy property.
Well, that was a good little mic drop moment to end the interview with. I am so grateful for your time and for your knowledge, and for what rate you'll hopefully be able to get me. I'm sure that you helped put a few other people's minds at ease as well.
Well, you know what? I have no doubts that you're going to smash it out of the ballpark.
Here's hoping. Look at you making, humanizing mortgage brokers to the world. I love it. Oh, bye, Ivan. Thank you. You're amazing.
You're amazing.
So, are you still there? Are you still here? Are you still with us, even through the mortgage episode? And I know that it might not have been the usual cup of tea that we stir through on this little podcast, but divorce and separation and breakups and rebuilding your life there's the exciting part of dating and getting a whole new wardrobe and all that stuff people talk about. But there is a lot of the brass tacks, boring, practical stuff you've got to wade through. So I really hope that this episode helped someone out there who's in a similar boat to me. And if you have any comments you'd like to leave on Spotify, you can leave little notes on each episode. So it's not like Apple where you can just review the whole show. You can let me know what you thought of this specific ep. And if you want to reach out to me directly, you can follow me on Instagram at Megan Lonergan. And I will see you next week.